Millionaire in disguise sees manager humiliating cashier, his next move shocks everyone. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when David Harper, dressed in a faded hoodie and worn-out jeans, stepped into a small-town grocery store on the outskirts of Chicago. To anyone watching, he looked like just another tired traveler trying to escape the drizzle. No one could have guessed that beneath the casual clothes stood a man worth millions, a tech entrepreneur who had quietly built an empire yet never forgotten his humble beginnings stocking shelves at a corner store much like this one. David wandered the aisles, pushing an old shopping cart that wobbled with every turn. He wasn't there for groceries, he had more than enough food waiting at home. He was there because he liked to see real life, to remember what it felt like to be invisible, to feel the weight of an honest day's work. But what he witnessed next stopped him in his tracks. Near the checkout counters, a young cashier named Lily stood frozen, clutching a receipt as her manager, a tall, red-faced man named Carl, berated her in front of customers. "How many times do I have to tell you?" Carl barked, his voice dripping with disdain. "You keep making mistakes, and frankly, you're lucky you even have this job." He slammed a stack of papers onto the counter, making Lily flinch. The few customers in line averted their eyes, pretending not to notice, but the tension in the air was palpable. David felt his chest tighten. Memories of his own first job flooded back, the nights he'd been humiliated for errors that weren't even his fault, the sting of being treated as disposable. He watched Lily blink rapidly, fighting back tears as Carl continued his tirade, calling her useless for a small error on a $3 refund. David could see that this wasn't just about one mistake, it was about power, about someone forgetting that every employee was a human being first. David slowly approached, his cart empty. He stopped near the counter, pretending to examine a candy bar, but his eyes stayed on Lily. When Carl turned away briefly, David caught her gaze and offered a small, reassuring smile. She looked startled but held on to that moment of kindness as if it were a lifeline. Then Carl returned, now threatening to dock Lily's pay. That was enough. David set the candy bar down and said calmly, "Excuse me, sir, do you always speak to your staff this way?" Carl turned, his face flushed with annoyance. "Mind your business," he snapped. "This is between me and my employee." David's expression didn't change, but his tone hardened just slightly. It's everyone's business when someone's dignity is being trampled. The customers in line shifted uncomfortably, but no one said a word. Carl scoffed, muttering something under his breath, clearly not taking David seriously. That's when David pulled out his phone and made a single call. "Yes, it's David Harper. I'd like to speak with the regional director about a personnel issue at your Springfield location," he said loud enough for Carl to hear. The manager blinked, confused, while Lily looked between them, unsure what was happening. Within minutes, Carl's phone rang. As he answered, his face drained of color. David calmly explained to the gathering crowd that he was the silent partner and primary investor of this entire chain of stores. He hadn't planned to reveal his identity today, but witnessing cruelty where there should have been kindness left him no choice. Carl stammered apologies, but David didn't raise his voice or gloat. Instead, he turned to Lily. "You deserve better," he said softly. "From now on, you'll report directly to the regional manager. And consider this your promotion to shift supervisor. I've watched how you handle people with patience, even when you're treated unfairly. That's real leadership." Tears welled in Lily's eyes, this time not from shame but from gratitude. Customers who had once stayed silent began clapping, a few even offering words of support. The mood in the store shifted from tense to electric, filled with a sense of justice restored. David gave one final look to Carl. "Businesses aren't built on profit alone," he said firmly. "They're built on respect. Forget that, and you lose everything worth having." As David left the store, hood pulled over his head, Lily stood taller than before, hope replacing the weight of humiliation. The customers left with a story they'd tell for years, not about the millionaire's wealth, but about how one act of courage and compassion could change a life in an instant. And somewhere in the quiet rain outside, David smiled to himself. Money had given him power, yes, but kindness, he knew, was the greatest power of all.